AI is the most disruptive technology that we've seen in our careers, and it's heralding a whole new future for talent acquisition. Most of the discussion in the industry around AI is about use cases and what the future might look like. But it's really important that we understand how the technology works. What are the implications for the way we design software? What about the way we interface with recruiting systems? What are the legal issues? How do we adapt our processes to really make AI work and get its true value? And also, how do we educate and move our teams forward to really adopt this new technology in a way that really works? The most important thing to me in all of this is transparency. Smart Recruiters recently launched Winston, a recruiting platform that's been built AI first from the bottom up. And I'm delighted that they agree transparency is just as important to them as it is to me. In this series of 4 interviews, we're going to be talking to the people who built Winston and continue to evolve it. So, as you as talent acquisition professionals can learn the lessons that they've learned to superpower your AI transformation. Hi, Shefali. It is fantastic to be talking to you. Could you just introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Smart Recruiters?
Matt, it's really great to be here. I am Shefali Netke. I am VP of Product Design at SmartRecruiters.
Fantastic. Now, you've been working on the AI platform for a number of months now, and it's obviously been a massive project. Give us a bit of background around Smart Recruiters' approach to user experience design. What are the key principles that you've kind of traditionally followed?
Yeah, we actually have an acronym that we call WELL for our design principles. We say our design should be worldwide, easy, and lovable. Worldwide is about creating experiences that scale to any type of organization and also accessible to any type of user and audience. Easy is pretty self-explanatory, and lovable, it should not only be easy, but folks should enjoy using our platform. So those three are quite core to how we design here.
And I'm sure designing for AI has thrown up a number of challenges and differences from the way that you sort of worked in the past. When did you realize that you were going to have to kind of change the way that you think and the traditional sort of design principles for digital weren't going to work in quite the same way for AI?
Yeah, so about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, we had this very intentional shift towards moving to AI products, thinking about it. And we had a workshop where we did a lot of vision typing to just dream and explore. And as we were doing that and coming up with ideas, we soon realized the way we're working is not what was going to take us forward. Even just to prototype and prove out those ideas was showing to be really different from our previous approach. So we learned pretty quickly that we would have to pivot.
And how long did it take to do that? I mean, how much time did you have to invest in research and planning and experimentation to kind of sort of really make that shift to learn what you needed to learn?
Yeah. So once we decided we want to make the shift, we actually took a full quarter to do research, which was amazing for our product and design org. We talked with a number of customers, spent our whole time in customer interviews. Can't learn everything in a quarter, of course, but we accelerated our learning that way and went really deep with folks. And we're continuing to learn along the way. But this dedicated time was really game changing for us.
And is that the first time you've had that much time to think about something?
Definitely. Yes.
Absolutely. And what is it that's so challenging about designing conversationally? I mean, what were some of the early assumptions you had? How did you need to rethink? Did you need sort of additional expertise on the team to make it work?
Yeah, so with traditional design, there's happy paths and there's a lot of different flows you can take, but they're fairly predictable. We can sort of map them all out and we create all the different states. With conversational design, you never really know, right? Humans are unpredictable. It can go in a lot of different directions. It's nearly impossible to figure out everything. And we started working this way and soon realized that we needed to bring an expert in. So we actually brought on a conversational designer whose specialty is in linguistics and has built different tools and software around that specific area and had her work with our product designers and integrated her into the team to really accelerate our knowledge there.
And I think we should probably kind of explain a little bit about what conversational design is, how it works, and how it sort of is so important to your product. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the many ways that AI plays into products. And for conversational design in particular, it's a different way of really interfacing with smart recruiters. So instead of clicks, it's more, typing in or using prompts and working with who, we call Winston in our system, and having him help you throughout the process. So there's a lot of different paths you can take to a particular solution versus something, you do a click and you know exactly where it's going to go. It's much more like, a conversation as it sounds.
And I mean, how do you sort of prototype around conversations? Because thinking back to sort of the early days of chatbots and these kind of interfaces, they were all sort of heavily scripted. So presumably you could kind of plot the path through it. How does it work when the AI is generating conversation, but also when you're not perhaps quite sure what the user's going to ask or say?
Yeah, so I think this is where our AI prototyping comes in, and we shorten those cycles a lot. We can't wait to build out, this perfect prototype or try to think of all the possibilities and then test it. We build smaller versions that we can iterate on and actually do live testing. So we need prototypes that folks can actually type in and get a response versus having really predictable paths there. So we try to shorten the cycles to learn quickly and move forward.
And did you obviously Winston is is the kind of the name of the product, the name that people are talking to, I suppose. Did you think about the personality of Winston when you were designing this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always such a fun and interesting conversation on what's the balance like, Winston, right? He's there to help you along the way. He's someone who's knowledgeable. We did a lot of sort of persona mapping and thinking around what that feeling should be when you're interacting with Winston, which really, really fun exercise, I would say.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you kind of had a design partner program within this, so you were sort
Yeah.
of co-creating it with users, with customers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had about 18 to 20 core customers we worked with. We talked to several more, but with the speed of how the AI industry is moving and innovation and everything we've been wanting to test, we realized we needed folks that were there with us more along every step of the way versus sometimes we talk to customers on a longer cycle. So in this case, we started our design partner program and folks were technically signing up to talk to us maybe every other month, but it was actually every couple weeks is what we ended up doing because folks were so eager and our cycles were much shorter. And the reason we did this is so we could test faster, so we could iterate with them and really take them on the journey together. Because when we started conversations with them, they also came to us and said, we're trying to figure out our AI strategy and how it impacts our systems and our HR strategy. And it was really interesting to have that conversation and build together along the way.
And how important were their voices in shaping what this eventually became?
Yeah, super important. So they were there throughout the journey, right? So our earlier conversations were a bit more user research and contextual. And then as we started developing, the sessions turned into a bit of a mix, right? We would have a conversation to understand their struggle points. And then for a part of the conversation, they would test the latest thing we've been developing. And in the next conversation, we'd already iterated on that and put their feedback. So it was really nice to have them just in the cycle of how we were working.
And was there anything that kind of really surprised you from that process?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think that it varies quite a bit. I think that there's a lot of different types of users, and everyone has different levels of comfort with AI. So we were talking to one of our design partners, and we were describing these, really complex use cases. And one of the people on the call said, "What about just write my emails for me?" Like really simple use case. We're like, "Oh, we can already do that though," and we made that clear to them and really finding that balance there, right? So, how do we make sure that we're solving for different comfort levels and different expectations? And I think that has been a really interesting challenge because there's different levels of adoption with AI. So, figuring out where the team is at, and then even within that team, there's a variance of comfort and readiness to adopt. So that's been really interesting to see. And we have some people who are very eager and then some folks who are more cautious. And that's where a lot of the trust building comes in and really understanding how to do that and even starting to put that directly in the product to build trust because can't talk one-on-one with everyone, right? So it needs to be built into the experience. So I think that was really interesting to see play out.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's sort of dig a bit deeper into trust because
Sure.
I think that a lot of people are suspicious about AI, worried about that kind of thing. There's huge issues around compliance and all these kind of things. So sort of trust obviously is really important. How did you kind of really make sure that trust was in that, and it wasn't doing things that would erode people's trust in the system?
Yeah. So, in addition to our design partner program, we do have a trust and safety committee that our SVP of engineering runs, Mihal. And in that, we have a panel of folks we're talking to and really staying on top of everything related to compliance and how folks are feeling about this. And then directly in the product, we worked pretty closely with our legal team to understand transparency and what it should look like in the system. So we developed, a specific AI badge, as all folks do, to make sure whenever we are using AI in the product, it's super clear as to when that's happening. And also finding the line between up to when should AI be taking specific actions. Because at the end of the day, for any big decision or anything really critical, we do want the human to decide. So finding that balance and making sure folks know that that's not happening on their behalf unless they want it to for a particular reason. So really providing context every step of the way and making it really clear where AI is or is not involved.
And on that, the AI is obviously the tool here that is powering parts of the platform, and the platform is there to get outcomes and drive value for your customers. How do you sort of make the decision about, what is AI'd or what's not AI'd, what AI does and doesn't do, and, how much it's kind of deployed in the platform as you're kind of designing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting conversation. I was at a leading design conference a couple months ago, and there was a big conversation around we don't have to put AI in everything and being intentional about does it need to be there or not, right? And it can be helpful in a lot of cases, but there's no need to force it into every situation. So I think being very intentional has been our approach where is it helping with the process? And I think a big part of it is also looking at experiences end to end. So if you always are chopping and looking in narrow pieces, sure, it might make sense. But when you look at it end to end, what does that flow look like? Is AI supporting throughout? Is that a clear pathway? In what cases, should a human go in there? Is that human touch more critical or more important? And in what cases is it supporting? So it really should help you, not be working against you. So that end to end is really great for that.
Obviously, this is an ongoing process. It's not something you just finish and then kind of set aside and sort of revisit a couple of years later. So, what's the biggest challenge that you're still working on now that there are customers on the system and you can see how everything's working?
Yeah, I think it's always fine tuning to that end to end experience and adjusting because we have, new products and new features always coming out and figuring out how it fits in that journey and making sure that we are checking in with our users along the way. So I think a lot is constantly changing. Folks are interacting with AI so much more now as well. So we're seeing like a quick pickup in AI literacy. So versus a year ago, the way our folks are interacting with our system is very different. It also means expectations are different from what they're looking at for Winston. So I think a lot of it is keeping up with that in the small pieces while keeping the flow consistent and still smooth and true to our design principles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're kind of at a stage where technology is evolving really quickly, but as you say, the way that people are using it and getting used to using it is also evolving. Um,
Right.
Kind of stepping out of the sort of everyday just for a second, as a kind of a
Mhm.
final question, where do you think this is all going? What does the future look like? Where might this system end up in a few years' time?
Ooh, interesting question. Um, I think the conversation will be less central around AI. It will just sort of be implied that it's running in sort of the foundation of the system. And I think we'll continue to figure out how to make experiences really seamless, making sure that folks can interact with different types of experiences, maybe from different devices, different modalities. And I think it will sort of fade a little bit into the foundation where it's not, the initial reason or pull point for folks to come in. It's sort of expected, right? Of course, AI is in the system. It's powering a lot of automation and these conversations. And I'm also really curious to see how the experience evolves. I think it's going to be much more conversational driven. And I think it's going to be great for candidates as well. I think the candidate facing side is going to evolve a lot. And overall, I think the experience is going to change quite a bit. And I'm super curious to see how it goes.
Absolutely, it's going to be such an interesting few years watching how everything develops. Shefali, thank you very much for talking to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
My thanks to all four of my guests for being so open and honest about their challenges and their experiences building Winston. I think that we can see AI is very, very complicated, but I hope you've learned some really valuable lessons from the conversations that we've had. And I think the most important thing, if you focus on strategy and the value that it's going to bring to your organization, that's how you're going to supercharge your talent acquisition AI transformation.